All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And welcome all. It is our Tuesday show. Mark here with my Mark Thompson Show family. Tony is here, everybody. I know, he works the same. They're like, I think he realistically has about 7 jobs. There's one of just starting. When do the Angels start? Don't they start soon?
Stop exaggerating. It's only 4.
And Kim is here, and she has 2 jobs that I know of. So it's nice that both of them can be part of things today. We have, of course, the distinguished David Cay Johnston in hour 2, and he's nothing but one of the most brilliant people you'll hear speak on any number of issues. I want to review what's happening in Minnesota. Minnesota clearly a boiling point, and also it has overboiled to the point that there are now changes. I'll share with you some of my thoughts about what's really happening and what those changes represent. That is superficiality or real fundamental change. So we'll get to that. Also, there is a poll up, I believe, in the chat.
And now, your comments.
No, it's the poll. the flash poll.
It's a Mark Thompson Show flash poll.
Yes, that's the one. Right. ICE shooting fallout. Who is responsible? ICE leadership failure, say 6% of you. Political pressure from D.C., 2%. Bad training and protocols, 3%. All of the above, 90%. This looks like a runaway. So leadership failure at the top, political pressure from the top, and bad training and protocols all led to the ICE shooting and the fallout. The fallout, of course, includes changes at the top of ICE. We'll talk about those. I will get to many of the specifics. You know, it's odd, and appropriately, this story and the attendant stories that is associated with the immigration policy in America have bumped out a lot of other things that we might be talking about. But love having everybody here. Please, here is, I'm wearing a Born to Peacefully Resist t-shirt, which this is Kim's favorite, the sun. Yeah.
I really like that one a lot.
So you can get one just like it at getmarkmerch.com. We also have the Born to Peacefully Resist other t-shirts that have that with our logo on back. Go ahead, Kim, sorry.
I feel like whenever you're wearing the sunshine, your outlook and your mood improves.
Oh.
Yeah.
That could be. Well, I mean...
Who is having that conversation?
My mood is definitely not, top of the... Yeah. Kim, how are you? Chit, somebody said. Anyway, getmarkmerch.com is where you can get everything. I'm even drinking from the Born to Peacefully Protest
I like it.
mug today. I'm drinking my Coachella Valley coffee, which is the best coffee on earth. Oh, it's so good. And our mug has our logo tastefully on the back. But you can get the mug, of course, you get Mark merch, but you get the coffee at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. It is the best coffee I've ever tasted. And I encourage you to grab some.
Best tea I've ever tasted. I told you yesterday, my kids make the tea and give it to me when they want me to be more compliant to their requests. And I feel like it actually works for them.
Ooh, it's a wild idea, but it just might work.
Speaking of a mood changer, man, this tea is awesome.
Yeah, they've got tea, spices, coffees, and they really are. It's a boutique roastery. So this isn't like, some discount roastery. And you get 10% off using our discount code MARKT at checkout. I got the mug and drank coffee from it, says Gordon. Wow, love it. Very, very cool. Well,
Put that coffee down.
I shall get on to much of what ails us now. So off we go.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, it's time to review a little bit of what's happening. And as you know, Gregory Bovino is hitting the road. Here's how it was announced, at least at one media outlet, and explained thusly.
We return to our top story. Tensions are high in the Twin Cities after the second deadly shooting by a federal immigration officer. Protesters are calling on the federal government, including ICE and Border Patrol agents, to leave the state following the death of ICU nurse Alex Pretti on Saturday. CBS News is now learning some Border Patrol agents will soon be leaving Minneapolis, along with Border Patrol Commander Greg Bovino. Bovino stirred up controversy over the weekend with this statement about Pretti, which he made without providing evidence.
This looks like a situation where an individual wanted to do maximum damage and massacre law enforcement.
CBS News immigration and politics reporter.
Yeah. So obviously he was doing something that both Kristi Noem and I'd suggest the entire administration does. They get out in front of a story and they try to dictate the narrative. And so what you saw from Bovino was just that. And we played you yesterday the concurrent announcements, which were to the letter the same, right? The drafted position of the administration, which was this is an agitator impeding an investigation, an immigration maneuver. But what was, and again, this is right away, they got out with an announcement. What was made clear was he was threatening officers in what would have been a mass shooting situation, brandishing a weapon. They used those words. So the utter fiction of it was out in front. Bovino and Noem both. Subsequently, the video's out there, and everyone can see that that's just patently false. And now they are backtracking on that story, not saying it's not true, but just ignoring the fact that they ever said it. And they're making a change at the top. Bovino, who seemed sort of the militant face of Border Patrol that had come to Minnesota, he is gone now, going back down to the southern border. And it's suggested he may retire early, etc. They will take care of Bovino. And when I say take care of him, I don't mean bring him to justice. I mean make sure that he has a comfy payout if he leaves government. The other thing that I would say, and this is something I want to talk to David Cay Johnston about, and then I want to get to Kristi Noem, is that this administration, the Trump administration, famously reanimates people. So even after you think they're gone, they're not. Look at how the body of Elon Musk that was hurling insults at Trump, having suffered this sort of political fatality at the hands of Trump and MAGA Nation, he came back. Trump and he are friends again. Same was true of Steve Bannon. These are all people, Michael Flynn. There are people who are apparently out of the picture, having exited the stage, and Trump likes to bring them back. It's another way in which he can engender loyalty and ensure loyalty from everyone. Don't ever speak ill of me because I will bring you back. Now, in the case of both Musk and Bannon, they spoke ill of him, and still they got back to some kind of rapprochement. But I mentioned it in the case of Bovino because I think there's this sense that the tide has turned. Bovino is going to be brought to justice. They're retiring him, and then he actually might be tried. And by the way, let's put that to the side because that still could happen. But what I'm suggesting is don't completely count him out. And now on to Kristi Noem. Again, somebody else who said that there was evidence that Jeffrey Pretti had committed an act of domestic terrorism. She said that hours after the execution of Pretti on the streets of Minnesota. So these inflammatory judgments, these preemptive statements, they led to, I think, Bovino's dismissal from the Minnesota Post. But interestingly enough, Kristi Noem is still in the picture, isn't she, Kim?
Kristi Noem is. As a matter of fact, there are a bunch of Democrats saying she needs to be, if she doesn't step down or if she's not fired, she needs to be impeached immediately, out of office immediately. And Trump was asked this morning, you going to get rid of Noem?
Here he is.
Kristi Noem going to step down?
No, he said
Just a
no.
no. He had a 2-hour meeting with Noam last night. Apparently, Stephen Miller was not in that meeting. Stephen Miller, who is likely the architect of all of this stuff that we're seeing, but unclear as to what he wants to see Noam do. Play me a little bit of Noam speaking about what was going on. He's talking, Noam's talking to Steve Ducey's kid. I don't know what Steve Ducey's son's name is, but anyway, here they are speaking. This is Kristi Noem, the Department of Homeland Security secretary, talking to Steve Ducey's son, who I guess is a Fox News anchor from the FEMA
weapons
offices.
And no ID, and confronting law enforcement like that is one of the reasons that we see situations like this unfold. I think everybody can learn from this situation. I'm grateful for law enforcement to put their lives on the line every day to go out there on the streets and try to bring criminals to justice and protect the public. And we'll continue to make sure the right thing is done, this investigation is completed, and that we continue to go forward and we enforce the law and apply it equally to everybody in the country.
What is the line? Where does it go from peaceful protest, I have a First Amendment right to do that, to I'm going to get arrested protesting, to I'm going to get shot to death?
We have clearly from the very beginning followed the exact same process and protocols that have been implemented this entire administration and that the previous administration followed and has gone on in law enforcement interactions for years. You cannot impede a law enforcement investigation and operation. When an officer tells you to back off and gives you orders, you should comply and explain. You shouldn't show up with weapons then no ID and no indication of how they're going to be used. And that aggressive interaction, laying hands on law enforcement officers, clearly is a crime, and it is something that should not be acceptable.
Because you mentioned the protocol, there is an angle of the video that we've been playing all morning where it shows an officer removing a weapon either from Alex Pretti's waistband or a holster. And he walks away with the weapon before officers start shooting. It appears that Alex Pretti was disarmed. If he was disarmed, is it the protocol to use deadly force?
And that's all part of this investigation. Every video will be analyzed. Everything will be looked at. And that's part of the answers that I can't speak to every single thing that those officers thought, but this happened in seconds. They clearly feared for their lives and took action to defend themselves and the people around them.
You know, this is the life raft on which they all cling, which is they feared for their lives. They disarmed Pretti. They threw him to the pavement. By the way, he was disarmed after he'd been thrown to the pavement. And never drew the gun that they keep talking about. The gun that he was brandishing, never drew it. Had a license to carry. And then after the gun was taken, it was just noted here, when she's confronted with it, she just goes, oh, that's all going to come out of the investigation. That's when he was executed. So the administration is urging Americans essentially to ignore what you see. It is truly Orwellian. Believe what the state tells you. And this is an extremely dangerous situation that has overflown, has boiled over. And so is Noem a character who is a calming agent? I'd suggest not. She is a dutiful foot soldier for Donald Trump. And you can see she's sort of unflappable in the back and forth under questioning. You know, she never blinks. We played it for you yesterday when she was confronted in the interview with Margaret Brennan about her book, in which she said she'd met with Kim Jong-un. Brennan confronted her saying, did you meet with Kim Jong-un? And she, because as it turns out, she never did. It was an out-and-out fabrication. And she didn't ever say, you know, I misspoke. There's never. She'll never blink. She said, I met with a lot of world leaders. And the minute that was brought to my attention, we've taken actions to make sure that that's been handled. Never use the word deleted, never use the word, I mean, she's, and that's the kind of person that Trump likes. So she remains in office. It turns out that in the confrontation with federal agents, that preceded the confrontation that ended Alex Pretti's life, he broke a rib in that confrontation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, Randy mentioned it, but CNN reported this morning that he had this confrontation a week before he died with federal agents. And they say that he was tackled to the ground and broke a rib in that incident.
So, again, this is a guy, and I think there's a lot of this in Minnesota, who is committed to showing up where the ICE agents and Border Patrol agents show, where these enforcement agents show up, and the use of the recording devices is, honestly, it's a saving grace. Without it, I don't think we know anything about what's going on. We'd be taking an official version of the scene that represents nothing of what actually happened at the scene. Here's Amy Klobuchar on everything, and she, of course, also the senator from Minnesota.
Senator Klobuchar, just simply your reaction to what happened yesterday in Minneapolis.
It was simply horrific. This, as you've pointed out, an ICU nurse in the VA hospital in Minneapolis. That has got to be one of the most self-sacrificing jobs that anyone can have. An honorable job. He loved our veterans. He was with them in many times in the closing days of their lives. As his mom described him and dad, he was a kind-hearted soul. And they've asked us to tell the truth about him. And what we saw of how he died should never happen to an American citizen. He was called by the Trump administration officials a domestic terrorist when all he had in his hand was a cell phone. All he was doing was helping someone, a woman who'd been pushed over into the snow, into the ice. And then there was this scuffle and 6 agents shot him multiple times. And of course, there have to be a thorough investigation of all of this. And we look at what happened to Renee Good. So what I have going in my state right now, Jonathan, is 3,000 ICE agents that outnumber the Minneapolis-St. Paul police sworn officers 3 to 1. It's more ICE agents and border control than our 10 metro police departments. They are overwhelmed by this federal presence, as are our citizens, grabbing 2-year-olds away from their parents, putting them on planes to Texas, and then my office has to go and get them back, or taking an elder Hmong man in his underwear and then realizing they have the wrong guy. People are afraid, and 2 of 3, 2/3 of the recorded homicides in Minneapolis right now were committed by federal agents. 2 of 3. That's what we're dealing with, and that is why my message is simple. ICE is making us not more safe, they're making us less safe, and they need to get out of our state.
It's remarkable to hear what the Deputy Attorney General said about this. He said that essentially state and local officials, I'm going to read his words exactly, a federal investigation is ongoing, make no mistake, this avoidable tragedy is a result of the total failure of Minnesota's city and state officials. He's blaming this.
I don't know how you can say
on state and local officials. What do you make of that?
You know, I have been with these officials. I have seen them. I think you have too, pleading for peace. And somehow 50,000 peaceful protesters in 10 below weather, I was there with them marching, when we're able to march without any problems. And then the next day, a half a dozen ICE and Border Control agents couldn't handle a guy with a cell phone taking video of them and shot him. So I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here.
I think this is important because he's number 2 at the Justice Department. Blanche reflects Bondi. Of course, Blanche, the former personal attorney to Donald Trump. Bondi, the completely corrupt former AG in Florida who took $25,000 from Donald Trump to drop donated to her campaign, to drop the case that she was signing Floridians onto that involved Trump University. That settled for $25 million. So there was culpability there. In any case, I'm just suggesting the whole crew is completely corrupt to the core. And to hear Blanche, who's number two, again, blame Minnesota officials, come on, man. These are federal people coming in, but this is what's happening. There are two things happening at minimum. One is completely erasing whatever actual narrative there was and imposing your narrative on a situation that is clearly not reflective of what we actually saw. So we hear how he was brandishing a weapon. We hear how he was charging officers, etc. None of these things are true. And I think the second thing is that there's a political price that's going to be paid here, and it's already being paid. Greg Bovino is paying part of it. They're moving him out. Kristi Noem and the associated splatter that's getting on the Justice Department and Trump, that splatter may be not confined to Noem. And that's why Trump all of a sudden is having a conversation with Walz, who he had, the governor of Minnesota, who he has no particular fondness for. He's put him down in all these different ways. Remember in the campaign, he, called him every name imaginable. And now he is talking about the fact that there will be a federal investigation. So I don't know. I suspect that Trump is only paying lip service to this, but by the same token, it reflects what he sees is a real political fallout that he's experienced. The president of the United States is experiencing this. And so this fiction that Pretti approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun, this is what the Fed said, and it just isn't true. And now loyal Republicans, normally loyal to Trump, are turning, and they're saying, we might be cool with a limiting of the immigration and custom enforcement tactics that are used. There are a bunch of demands that Democrats made in the main that were ignored in the House. The removal of masks, the use of body cameras. There's a list of 4 that were all pretty significant in terms of putting some sort of regulation on the way in which federal immigration officers can go through these cities and pursue what they're wanting to pursue. Warrants were part of it as well. What we're seeing now is, after this Pretti murder, you're seeing the clear indication that Republicans now are coming over. And one of the Republicans, and he's not a voting Republican in the Senate, but he's a significant figure in Minnesota, is a Republican who was running for public office. Kim, do we have that? That's the attorney, and this attorney, the lead Republican in the race for, was it the gubernatorial race that he was in?
It was. He was running for governor. Yeah.
Right. So he's the lead Republican in the race for governor. And when you hear him, you'll hear how, reflected in his words and attitude, the Republicans in America are beginning to pivot. If you've lost him, you may lose others. And then when it's done, I'll tell you something interesting about him that makes it an interesting footnote to everything. But go ahead, if you would please, Tony.
Today, I announced the end of my campaign. I have 2 primary reasons for this decision. Number 1, I cannot support the National Republican's stated retribution on the citizens of our state, nor can I count myself a member of a party that would do so. Operation Metro Surge has expanded far beyond its stated focus on true public safety threats. United States citizens, particularly those of color, live in fear. United States citizens are carrying papers to prove their citizenship. That's wrong. ICE has authorized its agents to raid homes using a civil warrant that need only be signed by a Border Patrol agent. That's unconstitutional and it's wrong.
Many of us have wondered just...
Now, that is the lead Republican running for governor. He's an attorney.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. He's not the lead Republican, but he's still an attorney. The other thing that you should know about him is that he was the lawyer for Jonathan Ross. Jonathan Ross, who shot and killed Renee Good in the confrontation that preceded this latest killing in Minnesota by a couple of weeks. He's now dropped out of the Minnesota governor's race. And it's apparent that he's pivoting, but when asked about, I'm smiling because it's kind of weird. He said that despite dropping out, he still supports Trump's original stated goals of going after the worst of the worst, meaning people convicted of serious crimes. I mean, that seems like a fair position. I mean, no one's saying you shouldn't go after people of serious crimes, whether they're citizens, non-citizens. I get it. Everybody's against people who are convicted of serious crimes, okay? That's hardly a courageous position. But what's happening now is a policy that's using that as the smokescreen to brutalize the American public. So,
can we go back to this for just a minute? This Alex Pretti being known to feds because he had a run-in with them. Apparently, he was driving along and saw this family running on foot, stopped his car. This is about a week ago, a week before he was shot. Pulled over and started shouting and blowing a whistle because he's seeing ICE chasing this family down the street. He's tackled by 5 agents. He breaks a rib, and he said that the ICE agent was leaning on his back and snapped his rib. And apparently, friends said that at that moment, he thought he was going to die. There was the reason that the lead here says he was known to feds is because there was a memo that was sent out to agents asking them to capture images, license plates, identifications, and general information on hotels, on agitators, so-called, on protesters, so that they can capture it all in one consolidated form. So ICE has been told to collect information on anyone that is offering any dissent against what they're doing. And they have now a new database, an ICE database.
This database is something that's been referred to. In fact, I pushed Tony a couple of things that I wanted to share. I don't know if he's, yeah, there he is. Can you pop up one of those database videos? I think the one that, it doesn't matter which, both of them reflect what is a growing database. Yeah, that's a good one, Tony, the one you got in the gate. Thank you very much. This is, well, this is at ICE at a preschool in Minneapolis using tear gas. That's not what I wanted, but there's one in which someone's confronted by ICE, and he says, "You're going to go into our database." Do you have that one? Yeah, here it is. Thank you.
It's not illegal to record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Why are you taking my information down?
Because we have a nice little database.
Oh, good.
And now you're considered a domestic terrorist. So
we're videotaping you? Are you crazy? It's not illegal.
That can seem like a laughable situation because it's so absurd. But as you know, the absurdity of this situation quickly turns serious, and there actually is cross-referencing in a growing database of the sort that we've talked about on this show numerous times. I've talked about it particularly in the context of Palantir. Palantir is getting a tremendous amount of information and data on Americans across the board, doing it through government. Palantir is a big supporter of Donald Trump and this administration. But to be fair, there are a lot of tech companies that are in bed with the administration now because they can get a lot of what they need. Here's a little something from the Financial Times, and this kind of speaks to what I'm talking about, and it's the way in which there is a dragnet network being set up, and you can see the way in which this entire thing that looks as though it's just being sort of thuggishly and goonishly pursued on the streets of Minnesota and elsewhere actually can be a much bigger data network. Go ahead, Tony.
This video shows the moment a Colombian woman was arrested at a daycare center in Chicago on the 5th of November, following what ICE called a targeted traffic stop. In a statement defending the arrest, the Department of Homeland Security said the woman's car was registered to a female illegal alien. But that made me wonder, how would they know that? They had to link vehicle registration data, which is held by the states, with citizenship data, which is held by the federal government. Documents show that ICE can use vast networks of license plate readers to locate and identify vehicles across the country, making this process possible at scale. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The US is acquiring vast amounts of data to power its deportation efforts. An FT analysis of federal procurement data shows that the agency has spent an estimated $353 million on surveillance contracts this year, up 27% from 2024.
Unbelievable.
ICE agents now have the tools to let them do geolocation, DNA testing, eye scanning, and facial recognition. A number of videos have surfaced where bystanders have filmed agents using smartphones to do this in the field. But many of the tools are less visible. ICE has purchased access to multiple data brokers, allowing them access to data from social media sites, utility bills, credit reports, and more. They have reached across the government to access records from the Social Security Administration and the IRS, all in pursuit of updated addresses to locate potential deportation targets. Silicon Valley giant Palantir has stepped up to build Immigration OS, a system to help ICE cross-reference all of these data sets. DHS has traditionally used its surveillance capabilities to fight terrorism and crime. One large division of ICE, Homeland Security Investigations, used to focus on drug smuggling and human trafficking. Former officials told me that members of these teams have been redirected to Trump's immigration push, raising concerns that those other crimes might be going unaddressed.
And so you say the way in which one state admission can be really a smokescreen for a broader mission. And again, we've spoken about it in this way, but I love that they've shown the receipts. So thanks to the Financial Times for that. That's what your taxpayer dollars bought, says Phineas J. Whoopi. Yeah, I'd love your comments. I'll get to them right away in just a couple of minutes. I also want to share with you some world reaction that might particularly get Donald Trump's attention as all of this goes down. And so if you can put some of these comments to the side, I will get to them and address them shortly. I want to quickly mention something quite significant because it's a new...
The Mark Thompson Show.
A new sponsor is on the show to help us keep the lights on, and we're very excited about them. And I bring in my better half, Courtney, to talk about them because she knows them so well. And this is only their second day on the show, and it's Sweet 106 Bakery. Sweet is spelled S-U-I-T-E for those who are just listening and not watching. Sweet 106 Bakery, sweet106bakery.com. This is, to me, such a clever idea. It's a small business. As you know, the show is populated by just a couple of sponsors. They're small businesses, but they're kind of boutique businesses. That is to say, this is a classic example. Don't they bake in small batches?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything is baked in small batches by hand.
Yeah. And then it is sent out to you. And that, by the way, Tony, that's my favorite thing. You're just on it. Oh my God, the Valentine layered cupcake bundle.
Yeah,
this is a special thing for Valentine's Day, and I'm telling you, I could have climbed into this container. It was so effing good.
Yeah, it looks like you want to climb into it.
Look at it. You see the layers of icing.
Exactly.
Oh my God, it's good.
Yeah, it's so good. It's so great. And the Valentine's Day bundles make it so easy to send to somebody or give to somebody that you love. The cupcake cakes are 3.5 cupcakes, and they come in this gorgeous packaging. And it's all self-contained, so it's great. It stays fresh, it's delicious, and it's very easy to gift and transport. So
yeah, that's one of the magical parts of it. Yeah. So it'll be sent to you or sent to whomever you love.
Exactly.
And there it is for Valentine's Day. What a great way to go. They also have cookies and brownies and I mean, and everything. Now look, this is one of the better road tests. We road test any sponsor that's going to come on the show to make sure that they're legit and everything. So we road tested these guys, and I'm telling you, it was...
It's fantastic.
I could bathe in this stuff every day. It's so good.
So good. Christy's part of the family. She's wonderful, female entrepreneur and founder. This is a family-owned and run business.
But she's won Cupcake Wars twice.
Yeah, voted the best cupcake in America, and she was on Oprah's network, all featuring her baked goods, her
And she,
cupcakes.
she built it from scratch. She's an amazing story. So proud that she's on the show. Sweet106bakery.com, S-U-I-T-E, sweet106bakery.com. Now, here's the best part. Use our discount code. You'll get 15% off your entire order.
Yep.
Mark T at checkout for 15% off. You will be absolutely delighted. I think this is, I'm so excited that they're on board.
I know. I'm expecting a gift now for Valentine's Day, Mark.
So am I.
Yeah.
Look
and
at
I know you're going to get
blondies.
15% off, so you have no excuse.
We're sending some to Kim.
Yep.
We're sending to Tony. And we're sending to Albert.
I know.
So everybody on the
Christy's
show.
been very generous, and she's just so excited to be part of our family here. And so, everyone is going to have Sweet 106 Bakery.
We're excited.
That's not fake. That's real.
Yes, that everyone is going to get it. Courtney, thank you. And thank you, sweet106bakery.com. There's a link to it under all our videos as well. And our discount code. Do use it for 15% off. Mark T. Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Shadow Stevens. This is the Mark Thompson Show. Keep it to yourself.
Wow. I love it.
We're on website. This stuff looks so good. So good.
Tony's putting it putting the link under all the videos. So
They have cookies and cream brownies.
Oh, dude, I had those. They're so good. What's that, Tony?
I see the link's also pinned in chat.
Also pinned in chat.
Thanks, Tony.
Amazing. I'll get to comments. I was mentioning that a couple of things are I jot things down that I want to mention on the show. Yeah, it's a tough job when I've got to road test all the baked goods. It really is tough. I saw that I was going to just mention a couple of these things, and they just begin to recede into the background. Here's a headline that I spotted a couple of days ago. I read the article. I was going to share all the details with you, but the headline says the whole thing. Black man put to death in 1956 wins exoneration.
That's a day late and a dollar short.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that'll be of a great relief to him. The SEC is dropping the case against the crypto exchange run by the Winklevoss twins. Do you remember the Winklevoss twins from the social media empire? They were in the Social Network, the movie.
Yeah, they had something to do with Facebook, right?
Exactly. They contended that Facebook was originally their idea, or at minimum, the idea that they all came up with Zuckerberg, and that Zuckerberg iced them out. Anyway, they started their own. Then they started their own crypto exchange, and they were being pursued by the SEC. So the SEC drops the case now that the Trump administration is in, because the Winklevoss twins have been very supportive and have donated in big ways money to Trump and associates. So now the SEC is dropping that case against them. A coincidence? I don't know.
Oh, there they are with Trump. Thanks, Tony. Look at that.
Yeah. God, Tony is really good.
Thanks, Tony.
The man accused of the $100 million jewel heist, that heist that took place right there at the Grapevine, remember? One guy was going on a break, other guy fell asleep. Yeah. They went in $100 million. That guy was deported. So there is no way to yes, there's no way to bring him back. Apparently, they so that's one way to get away from the law.
Was he deported with a suitcase full of sparkling gems?
I'm guessing that the gems are, it's between him and the insurance company. So there they are. Tony's got the shot of that truck. It was a huge truck coming from an auction, and the jewels were jacked. And the again, it was apparently the perfect caper where the perpetrator ends up being deported. So those are just a few things that I had kind of rocking here, and I was going to mention them, but obviously they've been bumped out of the way because of so much that's going on the streets of America. So now.
And now, your comments.
Yes, quickly, I want to get to some comments. Can you put them up there, Kim? And I'll just ordered the vanilla, strawberry, and dulce de leche cupcakes from Sweet 106.
Did you see the picture of the dulce de leche? It looks, I showed it yesterday on the after party. It looks crazy good.
I am telling you, incredible.
There's never been anything like this.
I think it's pretty amazing. I really will. I really, over the moon. Here comes my sugar buzz, says Harry Magnan. Yeah, for real. I love brownies. You'll love them. They have the brownies straight up, and then the chocolate brownies. Then they have the blondie and chocolate combination brownies. Oh, my God. I could just rub those all over my body.
There's an image I don't need.
So intensely great. Everything's so good. And there are the Oreo brownies there. There's the blondie brownie. Oh my gosh.
Bless America.
That and a cup of coffee, and I'm in heaven. Oh yeah.
I love how Courtney really has covered us. She's got our coffee and tea. She's got our treat to have with our coffee and tea. And then she's got our breath mint to take after it's all over.
That is true. Yeah, you've got everything you need. Never thought of that. Right. That's very, 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 very true. Quickly, let's check on the flash poll.
It's a Mark Thompson Show flash poll.
Then I'll get back to comments. The ICE shooting fallout. Who is responsible for it? ICE leadership failure, 9%. Political pressure from D.C., 3%. Bad training and protocols, 4%. All of the above, 84%. So everyone voting in the poll feels as though it's clear it's all of these things that have led to the ICE shooting and the fallout. Now, we'll wrap that poll at the end of the hour, and then we'll give an update in hour 2. And the flash poll will actually change from what I'm seeing. So, good stuff. Now, back to comments, please. And
now, your comments.
Okay. Sal the Shoemaker says, like Mark always says, ICE, they're rank amateurs, undisciplined. Swap out the ICE guerrillas with FBI agents. You think Pretti would be dead? Not a chance. Let me tell you something. Thank you, Sal the Shoemaker, for that, because Sal the Shoemaker is one of our...
Joe Fish, Sal the Shoemaker, Joe Box, and Little Anthony.
The reality is, if they were just Minnesota cops, Alex Pretti wouldn't be dead.
Yeah.
There probably wouldn't have been the confrontation. I mean, Minnesota cops everywhere, probably cops wherever you live, are better trained than these guys. These guys are designed to go into the street and rough people up. They're grabbing cell phones. They're breaking windows of automobiles, pulling people out of cars, showing up without a warrant, pulling people out of a home. So I think what you're seeing is just the implied understanding that the feds will cover our ass, which is exactly what the feds are doing. No matter what we do, the feds are going to come through with the narrative that he was brandishing a weapon, he was running toward officers, it was going to be a mass shooter situation, whatever BS they want to serve up. Yeah. And so they are deliberately reckless and deliberately brutal. The brutality is the idea. Anything else? The Barney Fife, Barney Fife and Greg Bovino comparison memes are either hilarious or deeply unsettling. Jury's still out, says Jim Slayton. Yeah, thanks for the $5 super chat. It is wild to
big shout out
to see Barney Fife put up against Bovino. I mean, Barney Fife was, the hapless, clueless deputy to Andy, who had his act together and was kind of the quiet, come on, Barn, let's just settle down. We don't need to, come on, Andy, let's go get him. That sort of, but there was an innocence in Barney Fife that isn't reflected in Bovino, obviously. The parallel breaks down because Bovino is truly a dark man. I think he has a dark essence with it's a cold, heartless thing that he does. When you can see, witness, and know that everybody in America and across the world can witness what happened in the killing of an ICU nurse on the streets of Minnesota, and you can still say that he was brandishing a weapon and charging officers and begin this fictitious narrative, man, that's another level of horrifyingly chilling reality. And I think that's the reality of Bovino. Barney Fife was lovable. Thank you, Miss Kitty. I mean, that, you know what, that states it much better than I just did. Thank you. There will, I didn't have Mark Remarkables for sanity. If I didn't, he says, if I didn't, says Richard. Oh, thank you, Richard. Well, we love you, Richard, one of our OGs.
Big shout out.
Big shout out to you. The Epstein files we still remember, says shadow producer Calvin Wong. Yeah. The Epstein files have been spirited away, apparently. America has fallen, says P.N.E. Britch. Certainly the part of America that you presumed would survive, which was perhaps First Amendment freedoms that we've taken for granted, the idea that there'd be habeas corpus, that you would be represented in court in a fair judicial process. These are all things that appear to be receding from the realities of America, at least in many instances here. The ICE agent specifically said for their, quote, domestic terrorist database, not to locate criminals who are here illegally. Hannah Pumpkin says, yeah, in relation to building a database, it's by no means clear that it's going to be limited in any way to people here illegally. I mean, this is, and we talked about this, I feel like for years on this show, where when you use the word terrorism, you begin to, and you mark someone or some group of people terrorists, domestic terrorists in this case, you change their legal status and you change the legal ways in which they can be prosecuted and incarcerated. Simply put, a domestic terrorist can be jailed and put into a federal lockup for many, many years longer than someone who would be guilty of disturbing the peace, impeding an investigation, whatever it might be. So the label of domestic terrorism and the label of domestic terrorist is something truly to be feared, and they know that. And so with a completely corrupt Justice Department and the application of that label, it's scary. It's scary.
Isn't this also interesting? Because I thought, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the scope of immigration enforcement agents, but whether they be ICE or CPB, I thought they had very limited powers. They could, only stop people suspected of being here illegally. They can't do traffic stops. They can't do other things. So how interesting is it that they now have taken on this job of collecting data and making a domestic terrorist database? That seems rather illegal. I don't think that's within their scope. I think that might be, if it's not against policy, perhaps unconstitutional.
Well, the idea somehow that a lot of things that were sacrosanct and protected constitutionally and protected legally have now become vulnerable seems to be, it may be a horse that's out of the stable, out of the barn, because you saw it happen with Doge. You saw government websites scraped for data on Social Security recipients, those who pay taxes. The Doge crew, Elon Musk, they went through government agencies and scraped those websites. It's just been announced. We said it right away on this show, but it's now been announced that Social Security information is out there, as it turns out. There's a bunch of IRS information that is out there, and they don't even know where it is because they don't know what websites it was stored on. It wasn't stored on government websites. It was downloaded off of government websites, even after there had been a judicial injunction issued. A judge said, stop that, and they still went on with it. That was during the Doge period. When Musk went in with people who were unvetted, had no background check, and just began scraping these government websites and then firing a bunch of people and closing down government institutions, everything from USAID to complete arms of EPA. and the Social Security Administration, by the way. Remember, we thought, my God, it's the third rail of American politics. They'll never touch Social Security. They not only touched it, they closed a bunch down. So this is the state of the state. So a lot of things that you thought would be illegal, I think are being redefined in the new America. Patriot Act, zero proof, 100% guilt with a terrorism accusation. There you go. Quesadilla is right. This Patriot Act, of course, predated Trump. So very good point. 9/11 kicked the door open to a lot of the stuff that we're seeing now. But thanks for smashing the like button, by the way. We do need it on YouTube. It helps us.
Iron rod.
I know it's weird. It helps us in the world of YouTube if you smash the like button. Subscribe to this show. Hit the notification bell. You'll know whenever we drop a new video. We won't bother you. We will just let you know, hey, there's a new video up, maybe of interest to you. So smash it like a boss.
With your iron rod.
Smash it with your iron rod. Right on. Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Well, I've got David Cay Johnston coming up in hour 2, and I want to wrap this poll that I have going in hour 1. So we will finally wrap it with the ICE shooting fallout. Who is responsible? All of the above, meaning ICE leadership, political pressure from D.C., and bad training and protocols. Those are the 3 things that went into it at minimum. And all of them, in the opinion of those responding to the poll, all of them are responsible for the situation that we find ourselves in with the ICE shooting fallout. And again, ICE is the catch-all phrase because this shooting was Customs and Border Patrol. So we'll wrap that, and Tony will put up a new poll for us for hour 2. Meantime, I want to recognize, wow, I like flower time. I like flower time. You like flower time. We all like flower time, and $100 super chat.
Big shout out.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much is right. How do you see the situation ending in its best possible way, in your opinion? I will tell you quickly before I bring on David Cay Johnston, because you have been so generous with your $100 super chat. I'll tell you what I'd like to see, and this is a huge ask, okay? But I'm going to tell you what I'd like to see because you asked it. I'd like to see not only Bovino out, I'd like to see Noam out. I'd like to see the immigration enforcement agents out of Minnesota. The events of the last 2 weeks have more than made it clear that this policy is flawed. This training, if you want to call it that, there is little to none, is completely miscalculated, misapplied. It's awful. And these thugs need to be brought to justice as well. So, again, I've said a lot of things, and some of them are not on a wish list. They're just me calling people names, you'll probably say. So I would say those involved in the killing of Americans on the streets of America, they have to be prosecuted. I want an investigation and a prosecution. It's outrageous that that's not happening. And they have to be state charges, because federal charges will just be waved off by Donald Trump. Donald Trump, who pardoned the January 6th mob, all of whom who ended up convicted by prosecutors, and then found guilty by juries, all of whom received pardons. These are people who beat police officers within an inch of their lives. They were pardoned. So I know that they'll likely be pardoned, these Customs and Border officials. So my point is simply, I want to see a total retrenchment. I want to see a total retreat. I want to see Kristi Noem impeached. I want to see funds for ICE and immigration greatly reduced. That's what I want, and I want those prosecutions. That's on my wish list, but we'll see. Is Professor David Cay Johnston on today? I know. Mark, can you stop blithering on and bring on a real brilliant man? All right, I will do it. Smash the like button. David is in the green room, and we will continue. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah, I think you got to bring state charges. I think that's the only way to do it. So, It is indeed a great pleasure on Tuesdays. We bring in someone who is a wonderful public intellectual, knows so much. As a best-selling author, investigative journalist, he's done so much reporting on the law, on government, on Donald Trump. He's written multiple books and co-founded DCReport.org, and there is still great reporting being done there and great opinions offered every day. Now he's at RIT as the professor. We welcome here the great David Cay Johnston.
Hello, Mark. Good to see you.
Hello, sir. All right, David, a lot's happened. This past weekend, we saw the murder of an American citizen at the hands of the feds. Give me some overall thoughts before we get into some specifics.
Well, this has led to the first possible indication that Donald Trump's grip on the Republican Party has been weakened. A number of brand name Republicans, including, Ted Cruz, have come out being very critical of what's happened here because they recognize that it is not tolerable to have law enforcement shooting unarmed Americans in the street. If you look at the video, it is an astonishing thing to watch. And back when I was investigating the LAPD for 3 years for the LA Times, I studied very deeply police tactics, took LAPD combat pistol training, got an almost perfect score. Wrote about this for police publications about police tactics. A nurse, Alex Pretti, is at the scene. ICE officers on the other side of the street. They come across the street, which is escalating when police are supposed to de-escalate. They shove this woman to the ground. Pretti moves to be comfort or help to her or pick her up or whatever, but he's going to help her. Whereupon he's attacked. They spray, pepper spray, and they do it not with the stream, but with the mist, which means anybody who passes through the mist gets it in their eyes. They throw him to the ground gratuitously. There's no reason to do that to him. Somebody realizes that in his back of his coat, that is in his waistband, but underneath his heavy coat, he has a pistol, which under Minnesota law is an absolute right to carry. And by the way, I thought the Republicans were for open carry and concealed carry everywhere without question. One of the ICE agents says, "I've got the gun," or something to that effect. It's not totally clear. It'll take some forensic analysis. But he is unarmed at that point. Whereupon he's shot in the back of the head, and there are 9 or 10 shots then fired. Those 1 or 2 officers who fired on him, they're going to go to prison. They are going to be prosecuted either by the Hennepin County attorney, who's the district attorney, or Keith Ellison, the elected attorney general of Minnesota, former congressman. It will not be difficult to get a jury to convict them. If they say, gee, it's unfair to us to be tried here, we want to be tried in Edina or Detroit Lakes, they're going to be convicted. And Donald Trump and his minions have been telling these ICE officers, you have complete discretion, do anything you want to do. It's obvious they've said that. They have publicly said, you have complete immunity. Stephen Miller, Trump's minister of hate, said that. They do not have such immunity. And they're going to spend a lot of time in prison rueing that they listened to these lies that were being told. There's no way Trump can stop a state prosecution. He can make it more difficult. But what you saw Trump do in distancing himself, and as he did so, by the way, laying off that I had nothing to do with this, right? Donald always does. He never takes responsibility for anything that goes wrong. You're seeing the feral, strategic Donald Trump who knows he's in deep trouble, and now he's got to try and fix something. And removing Greg Bovino, who loves to wear his somewhat Nazi-looking SS officer greatcoat, and certainly talks like he's an SS officer, from Minnesota, sending in Tom Homan, who's ferocious but not in the way that Bovino is, was a smart political move. This has damaged J.D. Vance, who I don't think is electable if Trump has to leave office because of his health or the 25th Amendment. But he certainly wasn't helped by his claims that, that Pretti is a domestic terrorist. And this also shows that even Republicans who have bent the knee to Trump and who put their spines away somewhere in a safe deposit box are beginning to realize that this is not going well and they need their own protection plan. And by the way, let's not forget Epstein files.
Yeah, this all has the effect of distracting from that. But I'm so glad to hear you state it so emphatically that these officers, if I can call them that, involved in these
agents.
Executions, they will go to prison, you feel. Because the other thing that you said, which is equally true, is that there have been impediments to investigations. The feds are impeding these investigations. As you know, they didn't protect the crime scene, they didn't protect the evidence, et cetera.
Right. But you don't have to have perfect evidence in order to get a conviction. And we've got so many good cell phones, and the cell phones that have been obtained by the state and the county, they're going to properly handle that evidence so that it's admissible in court. And the other officers who participated, like the ones who stood there and did nothing when Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd, they can be leveraged. So that will also be helpful. It is absolutely imperative that prosecutions flow from this. And if we get our democracy back, and that is not a certain thing at this point, but if we get our democracy back and the Trump dictatorship comes to an end, it is absolutely imperative that instead of appointing a Boy Scout like Merrick Garland as Attorney General, the next president appoints a highly competent, aggressive Attorney General, prosecutor, and says, we're going at this right away. And there's a need in this to leverage people. That is, you go after people who you can reach up the chain of command. You can go to prison, we've got you cold, or you can give us a bigger fish. And you build on those so you get to the top fish, who's Donald Trump. Donald Trump thinks he's immune because of that 2023 Supreme Court decision, which I assure you, Donald has not read. He knows the headline basis, but he's only immune from prosecution for official acts. So taking money for or directing money to other people in return for pardons, giving an order that you can ignore the Fourth Amendment and literally use explosives to blow doors and windows off of homes after giving people 14 seconds of notice. Those are not official acts, and you can be prosecuted for those.
Well, let me ask you about that, David. Why can he not see the legal high ground that the Supreme Court has given him, regardless of whether or not he's directed something that's been unconstitutional or not?
Well, if it's an official act, you can't prosecute Trump for the pardons themselves.
Right.
You can prosecute him for arranging to take money for that. That's a crime, taking something of value, much as the Supreme Court has diminished that as a crime. And remember, our Supreme Court has largely criminalized bribery in the United States through a series of decisions, particularly the one involving Governor McDonald, former governor of Virginia. But nonetheless, Donald is only immune for official acts. Taking money for official acts, that is a crime, and it is not going to protect him, assuming we get past the Trump dictatorship and we elect a president who's quite determined. And then we have to go to work on fixing the Constitution on things like, how to enforce the Emoluments Clause, how to automatically take action against any president who takes money from foreign governments, as Trump is doing. The New York Times had quite a remarkable story a few days ago that Trump has taken in a minimum of $1.4 billion in a year. Actually less than a year because the time period on their reporting. I'm sure it's significantly more than that.
Oh, I think that was 25% of what he's taken in.
Yeah, and it's
because of the crypto,
that, all
David,
the money he's directed to other people like his family members.
Sure.
And it is astonishing to me that the Republican leadership on Capitol Hill has no interest, is doing nothing about it. American public should be absolutely furious. We have the Emoluments Clause because the framers of our Constitution knew their history. They knew that, for example, there was an English king who was secretly on the payroll of the French king. and submarined his own country on the issue of Catholicism versus Protestantism because of the money he was being paid by the French king. And this first indication that some prominent Republicans are separating themselves from Trump is an important issue. I mean, think about this as being like you're sick and you have a fever. And sometimes the fever has to break multiple times before you get well. This is the first break in the fever.
I would just quickly note, so I don't seem hyperbolic, the reason I made my comment to you about 25% is that I feel as though the crypto grab is such a huge financial. We know that a couple of $1 billion came in a couple of instances from the Middle East, from the UAE, from Qatar. So, and not to mention that the Trump family owns that platform. So you're right when you say, if you include the Trump family en masse, you deal with a much higher number. But regardless, the manifest corruption of this administration, it's funny how his colleagues in the GOP, who openly, I guess, speak disparagingly of him in private, look the other way on all of this now. They don't. You cannot get them to say a discouraging word of any sort about him.
Well, and that's the significance of the Alex Pretti murder, that it is so shocked the conscience of people that some of these Republicans are beginning to find their spines. They haven't fully done so, but they're beginning to. And we need to keep the pressure on about that and about the Epstein files. Remember, all of this, the Venezuela, the adventurism is in part all designed to make us forget that more than 99% of the Epstein files have not been released, and that there is sworn testimony by victims, as well as videotaped interviews by other victims who say that Donald Trump raped them when they were 13 or 14 years old. There's videotapes and photographs, according to at least 2 of these women. And the fact that Trump is working so hard to hide this stuff does not suggest, as he has claimed, that, oh, no, I did nothing wrong and the files will show that. It points to exactly the opposite direction.
I want to ask you about the reputational harm that Trump experiences and that America experiences because of Trump's statement, because of his statements about the European community, about NATO, about Greenland, his adventurism, as you've alluded to, in Venezuela, and he's talked about Colombia, smack-talking Canada, smack-talking Mexico, etc. There is now, so under that umbrella, there would seem to be some reputational damage already. In Davos, you began to see some pushback, certainly from Mark Carney, but there is now even talk that European teams may boycott the World Cup. And so the very organization that, gave him that FIFA Peace Prize may be in this scramble to produce a World Cup that has what is normally representing some of the great soccer teams across the world.
Well, and something may happen at the Winter Olympics, because Trump has been talking about sending ice to the Winter Olympics. Which is an unbelievably unwise thing to do. The U.S. reputation around the world is just in the toilet. I've already this week done, I think, 4 overseas television programs or radio programs, and the questions and the tone of them has completely changed from a year ago. It is, who is this crazy man, and how bad is his dementia, and what is America going to do to get rid of him before the United States becomes a complete pariah country, which is what's happening to us. The European leaders are making deals with President Xi for trade, and they're ignoring us. Canada has made a big deal to sell agricultural products that we used to sell to China with the Chinese, and Trump goes, I'm going to put 100% tariff on, which he has no legal authority to do. But clearly his grip is being weakened here. And that's important. And if Trump is out, it would mean that we would have this absolutely jellyfish creature, J.D. Vance, in the White House. But he doesn't have the same kind of charisma and resolve that Donald Trump does. He's unacceptable to a lot of the MAGA crowd, which is deeply racist because, in their view, his wife is not white. And I don't think Vance would be as damaging to the country as Donald is, and he's continuing to cause this damage all around the world. No one is benefiting more from this than President Xi in China. President Xi and his regime see the 21st century as their century, but they're also incredibly patient. They have long-term outlooks. They want to take Taiwan, the island of Formosa, and bring it into the fold. Trump is destroying any moral argument the U.S. has that you can't do that. They want to dominate the shipping lanes in Southeast Asia. They want very much to set up a regional trading partnership. They had one competing with the Trans-Pacific Partnership, of which I was one of the leading critics in the world of journalism when that was a relevant issue. They were getting nowhere with their regional trading plan. Now they're beginning to make progress. And it's mostly because of Donald Trump going around insulting our friends, incompetently dealing with people who are our enemies, or at least not our friends. And this is diminishing the U.S. and the world. You know, the price of gold just went over $5,000, absolutely unprecedented. The price of silver is now over $100. Both of those reflect gold bugs and silver bugs buying up these metals, plus the likely increase in demand for silver because of the next generation of electric vehicle batteries that will use silver to make the lithium-ion batteries more efficient. Samsung claims to have a 1,000-mile battery that they will bring to production. You don't need that. You need a 500 or 600-mile battery. Because in the cold weather like I'm in right now, where it's essentially zero in Rochester, New York, on a 600-mile battery can still go 360 miles in the winter. And very few people are not going to get out of the car by 360 miles. They also claim you can charge it radically faster when you need to. The U.S. dollar is slipping. It's steadily slipping. And, you know, look at Donald Trump. He has $40 billion of our money to put back in office the man he wants in Argentina. He's may even put more money into it, it appears. He's looking at the advice of some of the people around him, propping up the Japanese yen. And he's, as it said on the screen a moment ago, you know, he is literally stealing Venezuelan oil.
That oil money that went to Qatar.
Yeah. And he's putting money into bank accounts. We don't know who or where, but they're not public bank accounts controlled by the U.S. government.
Yeah, I thought it was a private account in Qatar.
As noted.
So this is interesting, David, because you've really delineated on this official act thing some things that could be pursued legally. You talk about the pay to play for pardons. You talk about this in the case of jacking money and putting in an account. But it's interesting. You do need some political will and judicial will to follow through on this. And right now, there just isn't that in America. But you're saying, should there be a regime change, maybe that does materialize.
That brings up something, by the way, it's gotten almost no attention in the news media, and I fault myself. I haven't done a video for DC Report about it yet. I should. There is a letter that came into the public record thanks to Lawfare, in which the chief federal judge in Minnesota writes to another federal judge that essentially the Trump administration demanded a magistrate, that's below a judge, they work under judges, issue arrest warrants for the 8 people who went into the church and disrupted the services. Now, stupid thing to do, terrible, dumb tactic, but the worst crime you could charge is disorderly conduct. They didn't hit anybody, beat anybody. They came in, made a lot of noise, and left. The magistrate gave arrest warrants for 3 of the 8 people. Pam Bondi and her minions came back and said, no, you must issue all 5. This is a matter of national security. If you're going to claim that disrupting a church service is a matter of national security, that may play well with the evangelical faux Christians, but it's not going to play with anybody else. They are also, and so one federal judge wrote a letter about this that's in the record, and it's a very scary sort of letter, because if you don't have an independent judiciary, you are a total dictatorship. Trump has gotten Congress to bend to him, although the Democrats could be doing a lot more, even though the minority in both houses, both chambers. But independent judiciary is the hallmark of a free people. And Trump has always been attacking it, calling people Obama judges or radical lunatics and other things instead of respecting court orders. We should be very, very worried about this letter. And for those of you who also follow DC Report, I'll have a reality check video. I'll do it later today, and we'll have it up in a day or two.
Just because you mentioned Pam Bondi, and then I want to get back to the Democrats' comment. I want to follow up on that. But just because you mentioned Pam Bondi, the extortion demand that she essentially offered, if you want ICE out of your city, turn over the voter rolls of those in Minnesota. That was an extraordinary mobster moment coming out of Pam Bondi, I thought.
Yeah, and that is not going to sit well with any principled federal judge. I mean, Eileen Cannon would justify it, but any other federal judge is going to point to that and say, this is official extortion. It has nothing to do, as they say on Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the other. It's so basic that ordinary people should be able to understand this, even if they don't have any understanding of the law. And it tells you that this is not about rounding up the worst of the worst. I mean, beyond, putting zip ties on a baby in diapers, stopping school children going to and from class, and apparently in at least one case, going into a school to grab a kid. The overwhelming number of people that ICE is grabbing have no record of any kind, or it's an inconsequential record. I mean, they justified deporting one guy because he turned right, supposedly without a turn signal on. It turned out he did have his turn signal on because it was dash cam video. They don't care. They took him out of the country.
Well, there are quotas, as you know, and the quotas apply, and you get credit on the quota even if they turn the person loose later that day. They're just so this sort of gill net fishing that they do with the populace is paying off.
Think, Mark, about how angry people get if they think the cops have a quota to issue speeding tickets. And people get livid about that. I'm sorry, these people have a quota to grab people off the street, and apparently they get rewarded even if those people are set free.
Exactly. Let me ask you, then a follow-up to that. I still have the Democrat thing in my mind, so I'll get to it.
Yeah.
The follow-up to this extortion move on Bondi's part, we were talking about it yesterday, but I really want to hear your take. What is the real game there? So when she asks for those voter rolls, tell me what's really going on there.
Well, they want to be able to challenge people who are voting. This has been a long-term Republican strategy. Back in 2000 in Florida, they hired some commercial service. And so if there was somebody named Mark Thompson who was a felon, and there were 15 Mark Thompsons in a precinct they thought was heavily Democratic, they would throw all those people off the voter rolls without telling you. So when you arrive to vote on election day, now you got to go get a court hearing, and you may or may not get heard, and you may or may not get to cast a provisional ballot. The simple truth is that the Republican Party, apart from Trump, cannot win elections if it fights fair, and they know this. What they've got to sell is not what the public wants. The people who want their stuff are very vociferous about it, but more than 90% of people want what I think most of us would consider to be reasonable gun control laws. We don't want to have to walk into the supermarket and be met by three men hauling AK-47s or assault rifles, because we have no idea if they are just going to carry them or there's going to be a massacre. There is enormous public support for some form of national health care, which would save us trillions, literally trillions of dollars per year. What the Republicans are selling is redistribution from those at the bottom and the middle and some of the upper ranks to those at the very tip top. And that doesn't sell. And they benefited from, the incompetence of the Democrats in messaging and their cowardice in messaging. Mark Kelly's very straightforward. Unfortunately, neither Hakeem Jeffries or Chuck Schumer is. And so they're selling something people don't want. I mean, I would liken them not quite so far along as this, but William O. Douglas, the Supreme Court Justice in the 1950s, in a case about communists, said, why are we so worried about the communists? They are beggars in the streets, merchants in the street who've become beggars of unwanted goods. Nobody wants their garbage.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say it. This is what we were saying yesterday. It's right away. It's voter suppression right out of the gate. That's what we're going for. It's a cornerstone of their tactics. Now I want to follow up on something else you said. You talked about Democrats. Democrats are doing something, you said, but Democrats aren't doing enough. Does that relate to funding for ICE, DHS? What do you want to see the Democrats doing that they're not doing now?
Yeah, 7 Democrats voted for this funding for ICE. And let's be clear, if you add up all the other federal law enforcement agencies, starting with the FBI, it's like, an inch for them and a foot for ICE. It's completely out of proportion, crazy, the funding we're putting into ICE. And clearly they're hiring people who have no business being given a badge and a gun.
They have doubled the budget of the FBI, David.
Yeah, and still, it doesn't matter. ICE is completely out in space with their budget. I wish there were more newspapers and magazines running little graphics of that, or TV stations, so you could see dramatically the difference between the little tiny bump and the huge column. Those 7 Democrats should be getting holy hell from their fellow party members and the public. It's the Senate right now that's holding this up, and the government might shut down because we run out of funding January 31st because of this exact issue. The Democrats should be pressing this right now and saying, you want funding for ICE, there are going to be a bunch of things that are going to happen. You're going to not arrest children. You're not going into schools. You're not going into hospitals. You're not grabbing people in wheelchairs. We're not going to see pregnant women pulled out of their cars and dragged across the street. You're not going to crash into people's cars to create an incident. And they should be pushing this without reservation. But, instead of seizing the moment, as I've said, I think before on this show, the Democrats have a long history of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. This is the time to not pussyfoot around about what to do, but to be bold, firm, and use the power of the purse, because there are a few Republicans, Rand Paul, much as I dislike his policies, Bill Cassidy, the physician from Louisiana, who's now on Trump's S list, who will, if prodded and cajoled, probably vote to rein in ICE. I don't object per se to the existence of ICE. The people who say we want to defund and eliminate ICE, I don't think that's a smart political strategy. But you want to control it. You don't want out of control police. You want police who enforce the law in a professional way, who are taught to de-escalate, and who focus on, as Trump puts it, the worst of the worst. If you got into this country illegally and you've committed a murder, yeah, we should remove you. If you got into this country, have temporary permission to be here until your case is adjudicated, and you make a right turn and a cop says you didn't use your turn signal, that's no basis to throw somebody out of the country.
Yeah, I mean, they're detaining people with utter caprice. I mean, there's no sort of
this is the very definition of both arbitrary and capricious.
Yeah. So people are asking, is there a statute of limitations? No, there's no statute of limitations on those who were involved in the, here it is. Can states file charges against ICE and agents when Trump is gone? I know with Goodling and Pruitt, there is no statute of limitations for murder. Also, can Bovino and Nome be brought up on accessory to murder, says Quayne?
Well, there's generally a 5-year statute of limitations, but we would be past the Trump administration under a 5-year statute of limitations, and the clock, once you indict, if it's within the 60 months, you're okay. So there's time to do that. In the case of higher ups like Bovino and Nome, yeah, and the way you get them is you go to people involved in ICE. And you'll notice in the videos that there are ICE officers who hang back. They're not out there being aggressively right in the fray. They hang back. You bring them in, you establish whatever you've got on them, and you tell them, look, Agent Mark, you can cooperate with us and we'll make you a deal. You may have to serve some time, depends, but you don't cooperate with us, you'll see your children after they finish high school.
Yeah, I mean, this is how it's done. So we have to wrap up, but in this moment, just give me your sense of the state of the state. So you've got Bovino gone, sent back to the border. I was making the point before that, for everybody who thinks that he's out of the picture completely, be careful because Trump brings people back into the picture all the time. Noem still kicking around. She's a good foot soldier, it would seem. And then, of course, as you suggested, you've got Homan, the corrupt Homan, who is there, to be the new face of what's happening in Minnesota. But where do you see the policy? Do you see it receding from the aggressive tactics that we've seen in Minnesota?
I think you're going to see some pullback, particularly about the use of weapons. There's no reason for all of these guys to be armed. You can send 8 guys and 2 of them are armed and the others are not. But I think the most important development here is that Trump has now pushed too far. There's been revulsion to the point that some very strong, pretty openly racist elected Republicans are backing off and want to separate themselves from this. And this weakening of Trump's absolute grip on the Republican Party, that needs to be exploited because the Republic will not survive if he wins. We will live in a dictatorship. So it's crucial that the pressure be kept on, that people not take the bait, they don't become violent themselves, that every effort be made to lean on Republicans and basically say, look, you want to get voted out of office, we're going to get together and make sure you're not in office. Or you can back away from Donald Trump and restore our democracy. And that's the operative word. I'm giving a speech soon, and they wanted me to call it Saving Our Democracy. And I said, that was last year's speech. We now need to restore our democracy because we are not living in a democracy. We are living in a dictatorship that just hasn't fully consolidated its power. That's why I brought up that letter from the chief judge in Minneapolis.
Yeah, here. I'm going to link to DC Report under this video, so you can click through to David's latest and other very smart people who post there at DC Report and do some real journalism and great opinions. And David says he's going to post a video later today, so I will look for that. David, so grateful for you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
David Cay Johnston, everybody. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I have a poll, I think.
It's a Mark Thompson Show flash poll.
We do. Tony will put it up there for you. It's in the chat. It's here in hour 2. After, I don't know what's happening. Then Tony's handling this, so anybody else who's touching anything, don't touch it. After the ICE shooting backlash, what should happen next? A federal investigation? Says 29% of you. Pull agents from cities? 66%, increased training, 2%, no policy change at all, 3%. Again, after this ICE shooting and the backlash, what should happen next? Federal investigation, pull agents from cities, increased training, no policy change. The poll will be up until the end of the show. Thanks, Tony, for helping out with that. I did want to mention...
Thanks, Tony.
I know. Yeah, very, very good. Let me just quickly mention, because I'm so excited that...
The Mark Thompson Show.
I'm so excited that just yesterday, I was at lunch with my pal, Steven. Steven's a very interesting guy, musician, like mobbed up with all the hot chefs around town. Like you go in a restaurant and he's like high-fiving people. They all know him. He's an understated guy, but he's known by all these people. Anyway, so we're eating at this place, and after lunch, what do, Kim?
You pop your Zelmins breath mint?
I do.
Yes, I got it. No?
I pop my Zelmins breath mints.
Right.
And so the Zelmins breath mints have a little coating of spearmint. There's also
peppermint.
And so you can swish that around in your mouth. I usually put 2 or 3 in, and then after you've swished it around and you've got that kind of vibe in your mouth, you swallow it, because in the capsule is the real magic. In the capsule, there is sunflower seed and there is parsley seed, and those 2 things completely help to neutralize all of those things that essentially give you that bad breath or halitosis. It's a dual action power. And it is something that has been clinically proven to knock down bad breath. They paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for this study so that they could say this. And again, over 50 micro layers of powerful mint. And then the real stuff, the bad breath fighting power is, it works against garlic, onions. Again, road tested it for a month before we brought it on the air. It really does work. Zelmins Minty Mouth, Zelmins, Zelmins.com. Use our discount code MARKT. You'll get 15% off your first order. Zelmins.com. MARKT at checkout for 15% off. The stuff really works. It's another small business. And I love that our audience has embraced them. I guess on the website it says save 10%. You'll get 15% off your first order if you use the discount code MARKT. So
I got a little box of them. And I opened it thinking, oh, it's a fresh box of these. And there's maybe, 6 boxes of them inside this box that arrived. And it looked like it hadn't been opened, but I opened it and one is missing. And I thought, well, that's weird. So I asked my husband, did you take the Zelmins? He goes, yeah, I took the Zelmins.
Yeah.
So he took one.
He's no fool.
He's no fool. He's liking it too. So it's just interesting when they arrive how they seem to be dispersed by through the family. But they're very good and they leave this nice taste in your mouth. I really like it.
Definitely, and honestly, when you they really do take care of it, even after garlics and onions and strong stuff like that. So Zelmins.com, MARKT at checkout for 15% off.
The Mark Thompson Show.
This is Mark Thompson.
This guy's been on the road for a while. He joins us on Tuesdays. The former tech writer for USA Today. For years he was with USA Today, writing about technology. And he broke free. Now he reports on technology, also reports on photography and shoots stuff all around the country and all around the world. Joins us on Tuesdays to talk tech. He's Jefferson Graham. Hey, Jeff.
Hi, Mark. Good to see you again.
Tell me what is happening in your world and what is happening in our world of technology.
The world's most expensive phone is going to be released on Friday. Okay? $3,000 starting price. It's actually $28.99 starting price, but add the tax and you're at $3,000. You're over $3,000. It's from Samsung. It's called the Tri-Fold. You know about the dual fold, the fold phone that opens up into a mini tablet. It's like 7.9 inches. Well, the new one is going to be 10 inches. It's going to be, you're going to fold it 3 times. I'm not doing a good job here, but you'll fold it 3 times and end up with basically an iPad in your pocket. The question now, Mark, would you pay $3,000 to have an iPad in your pocket?
Of course not. So you typically take the position that these things are not priced for the consumer markets to really embrace them.
They're not, but the weird thing is Samsung has had these foldable phones out for about 5 or 6 years. There is a subset of people who love it. I guess if you've spent the money and you take it home, you're going to love it. But the consumers are not buying them. And why Samsung keeps jacking up the prices and doing things, I don't understand. Now, you can pick up a dual fold phone at this point for $1,400, which is about on parity with a iPhone Pro.
Sure.
But I don't get it. I don't get it. The people that have seen it say it's beautiful, and I'm sure it is. But I also saw some great TV sets at the Consumer Electronics Show that were $100,000. They look great, you know. And I'm not kidding.
You spend enough money, stuff's going to look great, of course, and work well. Let me ask you about that. Why are the Apple products? You just said it when you said, well, you can get an iPhone Pro for the same price. Why are the Apple products so much more expensive than the Samsung products?
Apple's always historic. Well, actually, in this case, Samsung's more expensive. But
no, I get it. But in general, but even no, as you say, there's no parity there. Like you can get this phone with a Apple whatever add-on, extra memory or whatever it is, and you can get for the same price. You can get this fold-out phone, the twice fold-out phone I'm talking about that you just referenced. I'm saying that. Clearly, Apple is just a much more expensive line of product.
Premium brand. So,
but is the technology better is what I'm asking. Am I paying for just the brand?
I'd rather have an Apple phone. So that's me. I think that the video
why
on the
is
iPhones are better. I think the video quality is better, and the whole usability, particularly if you're in the Mac world and you have a MacBook and all that sort of stuff. I prefer it. There are other people who don't. But the thing about Samsung is they come out with these phones and they are $2,000, and then they lower the price a few months later. So there's always deals 6 to 9 months later. Whereas Apple, there are no deals. The only time they put anything discounted is for 2 days in November during the Black Friday sale.
I saw that Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, was there at the premiere of Melania, which is the documentary about Melania Trump. He knows where his bread is buttered, doesn't he, Jefferson Graham?
When the government says you are expected to be here, and if you're not here, we're going to throw our tariffs. We're going to throw in tariffs, and your company and all your consumers are going to have to pay 25% extra, which that threat was thrown at him when he missed one of those events. And then Trump backed down. So you can understand why he went. Clearly, he doesn't agree with anything that's going on in that administration, but he's going and being the CEO.
Jane O says, sorry, no more Apple for me after their enabling of the Mad King. But he's not alone. I mean, they're all there. It's Jeff Bezos is there. It was shot, I think, largely funded by Bezos' company.
Amazon, $45 million.
That's Amazon, exactly. And the sort of reanimation of Brett Ratner, who was the excommunicated after sexual harassment charges. So there was a lot going on there. Anyway, back to the story of Tim Cook. Tim Cook is there, but so is Bezos, so is, in one way or another, they're all showing up. Yeah, they're all supporting. Exactly.
And I bet in their minds, they're just counting down the days to November of 2026.
And I'm not justifying it, but I'm explaining it. And I'm also trying to say, well, if you boycott Apple, are you going to boycott Amazon? They paid for the movie. Are you going to boycott? You begin to realize that at its core, the capitalist system at its very top is corruptible. And these people, as Jeff has said, realize that the only thing they can do for the survivability of their company to avoid the wrath of that mad king is to show up at these things. I mean, it's really a spot. I'm not suggesting that I know the answer, but I am saying it's a legitimate jam that these people are in who are running these things.
Now, speaking of the Mad King, I don't know if you've seen any of my semi-quincentennial episodes, but in October, I went to the East Coast and went walking through George Washington and Alexander Hamilton's footsteps to New York, and Boston, Philadelphia, and New Haven, and Washington, D.C. And the whole story, first of all, it's amazing that all these buildings from 300 years ago are still there. And you can walk in and see where the Declaration of Independence was written and the Constitution was written, and where the Mad King statue in Bowling Green, New York was toppled because of overtaxation and underrepresentation, and because of all the terrible things he was doing to the people. So it's very much in tune with what's going on today, and it was very fascinating.
Well, I will go back. I don't think I did see that. I'm embarrassed to say. Kim, did you see Jefferson Graham's offerings as he toured the East Coast from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia?
It's on my to-watch list right now.
Okay.
Girl, you just woo.
Very good save, Kim.
The New York
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
The New York episode is up now, and Philadelphia will be this weekend.
They're not even up yet. They're not even up yet.
No, Mark.
What?
Boston, Rhode Island, and New York are up, and then Philadelphia is this weekend, followed by
Okay.
DC.
All right. Jefferson Graham, Photo Walks TV. Find him at a Statue of Liberty near you. We are excited.
Good to see you.
I think you got a couple of dollars. Blow it on one of those huge iPads in your pocket. I'd go for it. Too much?
Yeah.
No?
One quick little story, since we're talking about Philadelphia. When I was there, I went to the Rocky Steps. Do you know what those are?
Of course, the steps that he runs up and he...
Right. So I have the tripod at the top of the steps, and I run in, and I put up my arms, and the tripod, it gets windy, falls on the ground. Little pieces, hundreds of little pieces happened to my poor $1,500 iPhone. And, with my luck, the same thing would happen to the trifold for $3,000.
Well, for those who are new, you will appreciate the fact that Jefferson Graham had his stuff stolen in San Francisco while he's doing one of those things. He sets up this tripod, all his stuff is there. He steps back, and a bunch of guys came by. They grabbed his stuff, threw it into a car, and they spirited it away. So I also, though, I laugh because it's nice to know that like a professional like you also suffers the same kind of crap that the rest of us amateurs do. So there's that. Jeff can be found at Photo Walks TV. Thank you, Jefferson Graham.
Thank you.
Yeah, love you, my friend. Really, really good stuff. All right, so we
The Mark Thompson Show.
we have a poll up, and sorry, is Jeff still there? No, he took off. Ask about the MIT flying umbrella. Do you know anything about that, Tony?
I do.
Kim will now answer your question, Phineas, about the MIT flying umbrella. Go ahead.
Yeah,
please,
well,
Kim.
there's the young man who has a YouTube channel, and he has developed a drone that will hover above your head that has, an umbrella open over it, and it tracks you as you walk, so you can keep
Kim,
your
how are
hands
you?
free.
Wow.
But it's not something that's in production. It's still just something that has been, there is his, and there you can see it hovering above his head.
I see it. Oh,
Yeah.
that is kind of cool.
It's fantastic. Right. I don't know how feasible it is. He said there were a lot of problems getting it done, but
Like
he's
the sound. I'm
yeah.
sure.
Oh, does it make a lot of noise?
I don't
Four
know.
helicopter blades, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't look very
Drones are quiet.
Yeah.
Drones are not quiet by definition, right, Tony? I mean, they all have that sound, right?
Yes, those four blades, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would be I guess the real breakthrough if you could build a drone that didn't make that kind of noise.
It's not on the market yet, though.
No, interesting. Very good knowledge, though, Kim. I will award full points for knowing.
Look, he's wearing, obviously like a lav mic, right? And look how loud it is.
This is a flying umbrella, and today we're going to make it follow
loud.
me around. This is
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It sounds like you're walking around with a lawnmower over your head.
It's cool.
No, it's cool, but you almost, to Tony's point, you almost don't want a drone following you that closely. You want it higher up, zoomed in on you maybe, and then your lav mic will be your audio. I think that's the way to do it.
Well,
but
that close or else the umbrella doesn't work.
yeah, I see. Yeah, I don't know, man. Well,
again,
how many drones do you have, Tony, is the question that is asked by Debbie. Do you have any drones, Tony?
I had one.
Mm-hmm.
It broke.
Thanks, Tony.
It might have got driven into something, and there all the blades went, and I didn't feel like fixing it, so it just stayed broken.
Okay. Yeah, they look really cool. The ads for them really suck you in.
It's just like RC cars, like RC cars are always broken.
Yeah. The wind can still blow that thing away, says CC Ryder. That's true too. Yeah. What if the umbrella hits other umbrellas? Well, you see, you guys should all be in on the development process.
It's an umbrella collision.
Just because we could doesn't mean you should, right?
Thank you. That's
What if
very
it
well
breaks
put.
and comes crashing down on your head?
Yeah, there you go.
Or
let me check the
somebody
flash
else.
poll. Let me check the flash poll real quick before I get a little bit of an update on what's happening.
It's a Mark Thompson Show
Flash
poll.
After the ICE shooting backlash, what should happen next is the question. Should there be a legit federal investigation? It just says federal investigation, so I think the legitimacy of federal investigation is very much in question. Anyway, 28% of you say there should be a federal investigation. Pull agents from the cities. After the ICE shooting backlash, what should happen next? Pull agents from cities. That's leading. Almost 70% of you think that. Increased training, 2%. No policy change. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here. 2% say that. We'll keep the poll up for another couple of minutes, so you can vote live in the chat. I'll keep you posted on that. Let's get some just a quick update on what's happening, and then we will pick up some loose ends around here. So Kim's news, and we'll get cracking on
The
that.
Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister. This news report is sponsored by the incredible CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. House Democrats are signaling plans to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem if she either doesn't resign or isn't fired from her role. Democrats on the House Homeland Security Committee said in a post on X, Noem has destroyed public confidence in her ability to lead, and they are calling for her ousting. The effort coming as the Trump administration faces serious backlash over the fatal shootings of Alex Pretti and Renee Good in Minneapolis at the hands of federal immigration officers. Noem has agreed to testify in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and the Senate Homeland Security Committee Chair Rand Paul is also seeking testimony from the leaders of ICE and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. But President Trump says no. He has no plans to replace Homeland Security Chief Kristi Noem. He was asked the question while departing the White House for Iowa, and he said, no, we're not doing that. Trump again in Iowa, where he will soon give remarks on the economy. The White House says his speech in the city of Clive will focus on affordability and energy, the latest stop in Trump's tour to tout his economic accomplishments heading into the 2026 midterms. Speaking of which, President Trump is now visiting local businesses in Iowa ahead of his campaign-style speech there.
Let me guess. He's going to tell us that prices have never been lower, gas prices have never been lower, energy prices have never been lower.
You've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, exactly. That's where he's headed, isn't he? I mean, it's going to be just a blast.
I've never seen anything like it.
A blast of fiction is what we're going to hear.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, exactly. So
Americans, though, are not too confident in the economy. Whatever he says, the Conference Board's Consumer Confidence Index dropped nearly 10 points to its lowest level since 2014 on concerns about pocketbook issues and the economy. Concerns about prices and inflation remain elevated, while mentions of trade and tariffs rose in January. Fewer consumers said they plan to buy big-ticket items, including homes, electronics, over the next 6 months. So he's got his work cut out for him there. What is expected to be the first of several wrongful death lawsuits connected to U.S. strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats has been filed. The families of 2 Trinidadian men killed in a strike are now suing the Trump administration. The lawsuit, the first of its kind to be filed against the Trump administration in federal court over its military campaign against alleged drug smuggling vessels in the Caribbean Sea. A person is said to be in custody and receiving care after a shooting involving Border Patrol in Arizona. This happened south of Tucson. The individual said to be in critical condition. What led to the shooting is unknown, so the details are still unfolding. But there's another shooting involving immigration agents that happened in Arizona. The person said to be in critical condition. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman, you remember him, the whistleblower? He testified against Trump in his first
terrific guy, terrific
trial
American. Yeah.
in 2019. He's running for Senate in Florida as a Democrat. Vindman running for the seat left by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. It's a special election, so we'll see how he does there.
It could be an uphill climb in Florida, but maybe not. I mean, things. Certainly, the political landscape is changing a bit, but. He's running for the Senate, so that gives him a slightly better chance, actually.
30,000 jobs are going to be eliminated by UPS this year. It is winding its partnership down with Amazon. Company officials announced the move following the company's quarterly earnings release today. Most of the cuts are expected to be accomplished through attrition, with voluntary separation programs offered to full-time drivers. Composer and pianist Philip Glass no longer performing at the Kennedy Center. Glass was set to premiere his new symphony Lincoln in June, but is now pulling it out of the lineup. In a statement posted to Instagram, he said the piece is a portrait of Abraham Lincoln, and the values the Kennedy Center today have are in direct conflict with the message of this symphony.
Of course, he's right. And, we've seen the culture of the Kennedy Center change because Trump has decided to stomp all over it, as he is doing with a lot of institutions in Washington. Yeah.
Social media is going on trial. A blockbuster social media addiction trial getting underway today in Los Angeles. The defendants include TikTok, YouTube, and Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook. The plaintiffs are numerous, about 1,600. They include not just individuals, but many school districts as well. They are accusing the plaintiffs of being, the platforms, of being harmful to children. A number of Silicon Valley CEOs, including Mark Zuckerberg, are expected to face questioning during this landmark trial starting today. And I don't know if you saw this story, Mark. There's something called graffiti-proof ivy. And it was installed along the Highway 101 freeway in Southern California. But the graffiti-proof ivy has now been vandalized with graffiti. Caltrans installing the artificial ivy. It's artificial, so it's fake. You have to replace it every now and again. It's on the walls of Highway 101 in downtown Los Angeles. They put it in a couple of weeks ago, and it's supposed to deter and also cover up graffiti ahead of the World Cup this summer. But in recent days, it was painted over by taggers. Caltrans says the 1 by 1 foot squares of ivy were designed to be removed and cleaned in case this ever happened. Quite graffiti proof.
I don't know. I'm not, not a big fan of the tagging, the graffiti. So got to say, I'm a Law and Order lib that way,
Looks a little trashy. In some cases, they have pictures where it actually highlights the graffiti, almost as if it's framing the graffiti.
Well, I mean, some of them are incredibly talented artists. I just wish, but that doesn't mean, just because I'm an artist doesn't mean I can paint anywhere or spray paint anywhere. It's really, again, I don't mean to sound like the old angry man, get off my lawn, but get off the walls of my city. You don't have the right to just tag anywhere you want. It is absolute vandalism, and I'm not cool with it.
This is for my my people in the very, very chilly areas. I had this story and now I've lost it. It's about frostbite awareness and what happens to you when you get super, super chilly. And what you should do. Here it is, frostbite awareness. There's a good portion of the United States under extreme cold conditions right now. And so Dr. Thomas Waters, who's an ER doc at the Cleveland Clinic, says frostbite is an injury to the skin and tissues that start to freeze and die, can occur during exposure to cold, and the longer the exposure time, the more vulnerable one can be. He says early signs of frostbite is the skin feeling cold and tingly, and then it turns into numbness. And he's advising people with minor frostbite to treat it at home by running warm water over impacted areas, but not hot water. That's my little story for the people that are suffering the extreme cold.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. And in fact, I went to school in a very cold area, central New York State. And back then it was really much colder even than it is now. But I think now it's still very cold. Mm-hmm. And I remember that walking to and from the library was like, I remember thinking, God, I can't wait to someday move to a warm place.
And here you are in California.
Yeah. And yet, we're looking at, just because you're mentioning this, look at all the people who turned out in the Minnesota streets in protest of the immigration situation and presence in Minnesota. It's incredible. We had drone footage here the other day of thousands and thousands of people who clotted the streets of Minnesota as Minneapolis has been infiltrated by all of these immigration agents. And the pictures were incredible. We showed them a couple of days ago. I just messaged Tony, maybe he can rally the drone footage again. But the point is that when it's 10 below zero and you get thousands of people out there risking the kind of frostbite that Kim is talking about because they want ICE and immigration agents from the Border Patrol out of their city, they're really committed to it because they are taking in a situation that is truly serious, dangerous, not only from the standpoint of law enforcement, but the standpoint of their health, because things are so very cold. So, yeah.
Lastly, you remember the
Now, there it is. You got it.
yeah, look
there
at
they
that.
are.
Look at all those people in the cold, the chilly cold.
So, I mean, but remember, this is 10 below zero, okay?
Yeah.
And that drone footage goes on and on and on. You're seeing, you know, and I think that's just reflective of the kind of commitment these people have. But were you getting demonetized because of that? Is that what you're, sometimes I see Tony gesticulating wildly, like I've asked for
No,
something.
it's Facebook, so it was crashing my computer.
I see, okay.
Lastly, there's a famous big bear bald eagles. Remember them from last year? They
Sure, of
Shadow
course.
and Jackie, and they had their clutch of eggs. Well, it's happened again, Mark, and now there's 2 more eggs in the nest. Jackie
Wow.
laid
What?
another egg
Wow.
yesterday. This comes after she and partner Shadow welcomed 3 chicks last year. 2 survived and were later named Sunny and Gizmo. Jackie laid her first egg of the year last Friday, and she and Shadow were seen preparing their nest. Now there are 2 eggs in that eagle's nest. So
Oh, this is really great news. Thank you so much, Kim, for some good news today.
absolutely. This report is sponsored by Coachella Valley. Oh, there's the eggs. Thank you, Tony.
Oh,
You
Tony,
see it
what a-
under there?
Yeah.
Oh, we need some good news sometimes, some uplifting
Thanks, Tony.
things that are happening in the world. This report is sponsored by CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. That's the website, CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Please go there because they're not only amazing people, they make an amazing product. You'll find coffees and teas that are top quality, so good. I am a huge fan of CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. Can't even tell you how much I love the teas. Please use our checkout code. It is MARKT. That gets you 10% off. Turns out knowing that code is pretty valuable all over the place. MARKT at CoachellaValleyCoffee.com gets you 10% off of the amazing coffees, the amazing teas, the spices they have, the merch, whatever's on the website, you get 10% off. CoachellaValleyCoffee.com. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
Right on, Kim.
Yeah.
Well done. And, oh, yeah.
I've told you it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Let me just check out if there are any outstanding comments I haven't gotten to. I want to get to them, Tony. It is my commitment to try to get to comments. So I will look at them
And now, your
Tammy
comments.
says Sarasota School Board voting to fully cooperate with ICE. She gave us a $10 super chat. She says, while the community protested outside the hearing, the school board voted to fully cooperate. Wow, isn't that interesting? That's in Florida, Sarasota. More reporting on that tomorrow, but thank you for that, Tammy. I mean, the sad thing about, of course, schools is that's supposed to be a place where kids don't have the anxiety of ICE showing up or any other anxieties associated with survivability so that they can learn, right? That's why you don't want kids showing up hungry. That's why you don't want kids showing up from homes where there is abuse. And there are any number of things that can affect a child's anxiety and jam the kid's ability to learn. And the idea that you're going to cooperate with ICE this way is scary. I mean, schools, churches, places of worship, I think they should be off limits. Debbie, recent headlines, U.S. warns they will send fighter jets into Canadian airspace if the F-35 deal doesn't go through. Trump always uses mobster tactics. I know that they were going to look again at the F-35 deal. Thanks, Debbie, for that. I don't know. I didn't see that they are of the view that they're going to send American fighter jets into Canadian airspace, but it's, you know, it's sort of a stupid move, but a lot of what he's doing is, I think, not well thought out. Luis says, quote, better that 100 guilty persons should escape than one innocent person should suffer, end quote, from Benjamin Franklin. Today he'd be a domestic terrorist. Hashtag ICE sucks. Yeah, I wonder where Benjamin Franklin would, he'd be a wealthy white man, but I think they're picking up, you know, if he was a rabble rouser, if he was stirring the pot, as you say, he might be considered somebody who should go down. Gas prices are way down, under $2 a gallon in my state, says Antifa Ron. and groceries cheaper. Life is more affordable. Wow, well, there you go. Antifa-ron is good. Everything's better with Antifa-ron. Here's what we do. We put together a list of things we need. We send it to Antifa-ron, and Antifa-ron will go to the store, buy us all the stuff he needs, because apparently it's so cheap where he is, and he'll send it back and distribute it to all of us, and he can take a little something off the top. Wet your beak, Antifa-ron. You can become a distributor for the rest of us. Put the coffee down, Mark.
Put that coffee down.
Put
that coffee down.
Yeah. I also, look at this. I like Flower Time gave us a $100 super chat. And I hope I understood I gave you sort of a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
You said, how do you see this situation ending possible the best way in your opinion? I think I gave you sort of the wish list on that. I hope that was the way you wanted that question answered. I'm going to give you one more little coda, and then I got to wrap up. I'm going to talk to Tom Hartman about this thing I'm about to mention next. Tomorrow, Tom Hartman's on the show. The one thing I would say, if you want a bit of optimism, or, I try to be realistic, and sometimes that comes across as pessimistic. I don't have a lot of faith in American institutions because I think American institutions are populated by people, and sometimes those people do the right thing. Some people who shouldn't be presiding over court cases, let's say, even at the Supreme Court level, because they have relationships with interests that have a court case in the court, they don't recuse themselves, right? Right away, we know that these are people who are not doing the right thing. Sometimes people do the right thing. And so, again, those institutions only are as good as bad as the people who populate them. So I don't have a lot of faith, just blind faith in institutions and systems. But I will say this about this regime right now. They're not popular. And when you compare this regime to other autocratic regimes through time, and despots, you hear all of these different names mentioned. I'm not going to mention the H word. I'm not going to mention, the sort of Stalin-esque dominance that you can certainly extend in some ways to what's happening here through any sort of worst-case scenarios. And you can even argue, I think, as David Cay Johnston does, that we're already in an authoritarian regime with the law and media cowed to this regime. But it's not complete, right? The one thing I would say is those that you talk about rose to power with tremendous popularity. Look it up. They all rose to power with tremendous popularity. Trump and this regime, they're not reflective of enormous popularity. And they are losing popularity now by the hour. And so if you need a hook on which to hang hope, I would suggest to you that a lot of America doesn't support this regime, and they just don't have the popular momentum that a lot of these other despots through time who were dominant, some of the darkest figures in history, a lot of them rose to power with much better and greater support than did this regime. So if you need something, I would look to that. And as I say, I'll talk to Tom Hartman about this tomorrow. Smash the like button, people. Yeah, Holly Hinman, she brings us home. Come on.
Smashed it with your iron rod.
I give you 10 minutes of juicy content here at the end of the show, extra. So thank you for that. Click that like button, smash it with your iron rod, and tomorrow, Tom Hartman joins. We now wrap up the poll. Here is the flash poll. After the ICE shooting backlash, what should happen next? A federal investigation? Pull agents from cities? Increase training, or no policy change? Pull agents from cities with 68% of the vote. The federal investigation in second place with 27%. I think the problem with the Fed investigation is you just know that it's not right. It's not something you can have faith is being done responsibly or in any kind of way to reflect honest brokers at the federal level. So tomorrow it is Rothman, it is Hartman, Kim returns. Tony returns.
Belinda
and
Weymouth.
Belinda Weymouth with It's the Planet, Stupid. So we will see you then. And now, the Great Shadow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Tony, thank you. We're out of time. Kim, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye.